Welcome everybody, I'm Nate Fox and today I will be showing you how to cook bacon and eggs to have a quick little meal before you have to head out to work or for school. These are my ingredients that I use to cook bacon and eggs. The first one, obviously the most important, are 4 eggs that I'll be mixing in this bowl. And then I also use pre-cooked bacon. I like to use this one because it's a little bit quicker to make rather than just using uncooked bacon. It takes a lot longer to cook. And I'm showing you guys how to make a quick meal that you can make in about 5 minutes. Next, I use a metal pan, and then I also use Pam on it in order for the eggs to not stick, because when the eggs, there's nothing to protect the egg from sticking, you lose a lot of the eggs on the pan. Here's a carton of milk that I will be using, because when you add milk to eggs, it kind of gives it a little more fluffiness to the eggs themselves. And then 1 tablespoon and then 1 teaspoon that I'll be using for when I add the milk and I add the water. And also a fork to mix the eggs with, because not everyone has a whisk. Okay, so obviously the first step for cooking bacon and eggs is I will be cracking the eggs. When you finally crack the eggs and you mix it, you want to make sure you mix it thoroughly. But you'll start to notice it'll be more yellow rice rather than seeing these little blotches from the yolk and the other juices that are inside of it. You want to keep mixing it until it's, for the most part, just like a pure yellow. There can be a little spots left from the yolk, but you just want to make sure that you give it a good mix. Now, one thing to always remember, obviously, when you're cooking, is that you're gonna have to deal with some messes. So always keep some paper towels close by, because especially when you crack eggs, the juices from the yolk will get on your table or counter wherever you cook your food. So it's always a good idea to have some paper towels on hand. So now we'll be adding milk and water into the eggs. I add about 1 tablespoon of milk into my eggs, because adding milk to it will cause the eggs to just be a little more fluffy, and I think when you make scrambled eggs, that's what you really want your eggs to be. Alright. Then I have a glass of water right over here, which is more than enough that I'll have for adding just 1 teaspoon of water into the eggs. Alright. Then I give it one last mix before I start to put them into the pan to make sure everything mixes well. Alright. Now that everything is fully mixed into the bowl, we can start applying the pan onto the pan so we can get as much eggs out of this as possible. You don't want to put too much spray on it, because with this pan there's a little bit of a flavor to it, and you put too much, your eggs will taste a little funny. And then once I spray it down, I just grab a paper towel and I just kind of wipe it around. Just make sure to get around the edges of the pan too, because the eggs will also stick there, not just to the bottom. And then you'll see like a little hint of a gloss on the pan as well. So you want to make sure you just spread it all around. And then once you have that, you're good to go to put the eggs on the pan. Okay, so once the pan has been applied to the pan and our eggs are fully mixed, we can start pouring in the eggs. You want to make sure that you get all of it in there. And this tool that I'm using right now, it's called flexible spatula. It helps to flip the eggs more to fully cook each side of the eggs. So when you're cooking on your stove, if you want it to cook a little bit faster, I usually set it about like a little bit in the middle of what most stoves are. So if yours has a number like mine, I usually set it between like 6 and 5. And then now for the most part, you just gotta watch your eggs and make sure they start to cook. As the eggs begin to cook on the pan, you can tell which sections are being cooked quicker by the color changing from the yellow to a white. Once you notice the white is starting to appear around the edges, that's when you should know you should begin to stir and mix the eggs. Now that the eggs are finally cooked, we can start to add the bacon. Now I usually do a few strips because as much as I love bacon, it is not really that healthy for you. So I usually do about 3 strips of bacon. It's not too bad. Not too bad, health-wise. Bacon's color will also change to a darker tone around the edges. Also, you'll notice, which is pretty common with bacon, once it starts to cook more, it will begin to curl, and that's when you should know to take the bacon off the pan.